As a newcomer in WWE, you're expected to have fear and show a lot of respect for your senior wrestlers. Guys, we all know what happens backstage is often far more important to wrestling than what takes place in the ring. But it still may come as a shock just how badly the slightest transgressions have derailed once promising superstars' paths to fame. Today we present you with Top 10 instances where WWE wrestlers were punished for insulting locker room veterans. Number 10. Strykers' very expensive big mouth. With his background as a well-educated teacher, one might expect Matt Stryker to make himself familiar with the WWE rulebook before he entered the company. It turned out he must have skipped that class because he found himself repeatedly in the doghouse throughout his first year working for Vince McMahon. Stryker made a statement which, in the eyes of the locker room, put SmackDown in a negative light in comparison to Raw. What exactly happened was that Stryker was asked to move to SmackDown from Raw, to which Stryker said, "Oh god, it's like going from college to high school." Firstly, it was Eddie Guerrero, JBL, and Hardcore Holly who disciplined Stryker in a manner that they were famously known for. Chris Benoit, who came to know about this incident, physically threw Stryker's bags out of the locker room and forced him to change in the hallway. Stryker wasn't welcomed into the SmackDown locker room again, and the heat carried over thereafter. Number 9. Chris Benoit hates chicken. Hindsight can be a painful thing, especially in stories that ended in tragedies. Chris Benoit was respected like no other at the time of his life, especially amongst the others in the WWE locker room. He was viewed as a veteran on the level few others achieved, despite his terrifying temper occasionally showing itself in bizarre ways. Case in point, popular rumor has it that Benoit once kicked The Miz out of the WWE locker room for 6 entire months for eating chicken near someone else's bags. Given their respective places in the industry at the time, absolutely everyone took Benoit's side and made Miz a pariah for the time he was banned. JBL also bullied Miz considerably during this time, although that seemed more based on JBL being a jerk than a matter of respect. In any event, Miz overcoming this incident, which he viewed as mere hazing, was ultimately what made his co-workers turn around and start respecting him. Number 8. You don't mess with the diva of the century. The vast majority of these disrespectful incidents happened backstage, which makes John Morrison publicly snubbing Trish Stratus one of the most infamous stories on this list. In all fairness, Morrison and Stratus were pretty much on the same level in terms of experience when they teamed up at WrestleMania 27, yet it still counts in our book considering their respective places in WWE at the time. Morrison was a young star on the rise with large amounts of potential, while Stratus was a WWE legend returning for one last match. It's clear who the bigger star was, at least in the company's eyes, and yet the whole issue was that Morrison didn't want Stratus on his mixed tag team at the event. The pair united with Jersey Shore's Snooki to defeat Dolph Ziggler and Laycool, but Morrison felt his real-life girlfriend and fellow WWE superstar Melina should have been in Stratus' spot. To show his displeasure, when Trish went in for a post-match hug, he blatantly gave her the cold shoulder and left the ring. He did receive a lot of backstage heat for this act, including a call from Vince to show up in his office. Ultimately, Morrison was let go by WWE in late 2011 thanks to his attitude. Number 7. A golden opportunity missed. When an up-and-coming wrestler gets their first tryout with WWE, it should be expected that they have millions of things on their mind. As with pretty much everything else, that goes double for a tag team, with 2 minds to race out of control rather than one. Nick and Matt Jackson, collectively known as the Young Bucks, have been heralded as one of the most exciting teams on the independent scene for some time now, yet WWE has shown reluctance in offering them contracts. Most insiders point to an incident between the Bucks and WWE Hall of Famer Booker T during a tryout Nick and Matt received with the company in 2011. During the long and extended handshake ceremony expected of everyone in WWE, including wrestlers getting a tryout, they apparently blatantly ignored Booker T and never introduced themselves. In addition to the Bucks not being offered WWE contracts, Booker and a handful of his industry friends also went on Twitter to mock them. It all seemed to work out in 2014 when the three finally met and shook hands for a photo op at an indie show. Number 6. Amy, you need to know who the boss is. Guys, you're probably wondering who the hell Amy Zidane was. By the time this entry's over, you'll understand why most WWE fans will never know the answer to that question. Zidane debuted during the 2006 Diva Search, and although she came in dead last, WWE hired her anyway soon after it ended. She became Jimmy Wang Yang's on-screen girlfriend for several weeks, but it wasn't long before even Yang was distancing himself from her due to her embarrassing behavior. Going on an absolute insult spree, Zidane managed to openly mock Layla L's lack of a push, insult Crystal Marshall's hair, hugely disrespect Vicky Guerrero, and in her coup de grace asked Stephanie McMahon who she was. That WWE could hire someone unfamiliar with the McMahon family says a lot about the flaws of the Diva Search, and it should go without saying that Zidane was gone within weeks of questioning the billion-dollar princess. Number 5. John, I am the legend here, pal. Chances are most people won't know who John Saxon is, despite his status as a veteran of the independent scene. Wrestling since 1991, a former tag team partner of early TNA star Kevin Northcutt, it isn't quite fair to say that Saxon was a beginner during a late 2000s tryout with WWE. It also isn't entirely accurate to call Shelton Benjamin a legend, but the point remains that he had far more pull with the company than someone just earning a tryout with the biggest company in the world. Benjamin was also well respected for his skills in the ring, which added to the scandal when Saxon wrestled him during the tryout, immediately heading backstage to tell everyone that Benjamin couldn't wrestle and was doing everything wrong. While every performer knows what it's like to have a bad audition, they should also be aware that the worst thing you can do is blame the person who already has the job. Saxon didn't pass the tryout and never again got a shot with the WWE Universe. Number 4. It's a Guerrero's invention. Don't use it. Guys, if a wrestler starts using a move as their finishing maneuver, they may want to know a thing or two about it, and you would obviously ask the inventor of the move or the senior wrestler who is currently using it for their permission to use it. In Muhammad Hassan's case, he didn't do either. In addition to Muhammad Hassan's gimmick being hugely controversial, he found himself hated by large portions of the WWE roster, in part because of a misguided comment he made to Eddie Guerrero. In the tradition of Arab American wrestlers like the Sheik and the Iron Sheik, Hassan used the camel clutch as his finishing move. During that same era, Eddie Guerrero would also occasionally use it as a transitional move. One night after Eddie used the move, Hassan asked him to stop, and Eddie refused, citing the fact that his father, Gory Guerrero, had invented it. Stories differ on whether Eddie himself was upset, or if it was other wrestlers blowing it out of proportion, but things like this certainly didn't help Hassan's reputation. Number 3. Game over for Mike Sanders. One of the many new superstars who cropped up in WCW during the promotion's dying days, many fans felt Mike Sanders arguably had the most upward potential of all. WCW executives certainly felt that way, pushing him as the leader of the natural-born thrillers and putting him in feuds with top names like Ernest Miller and Kevin Nash. Calling himself above average, Sanders won the WCW Cruiserweight Championship and even became the promotion's on-air commissioner all within months of his debut, only to get sent to developmental when WWE purchased WCW and got his contract as part of the deal. Rumor had it that Sanders continued to shine and was almost ready to get called up to the main roster, even getting invited backstage to Raw in anticipation of his debut. Also at Raw that night was Triple H, on crutches due to his quadriceps injury, and Sanders either didn't see him or was just too busy to introduce himself, leading Triple H to call him out for it in front of Raven and other superstars. Suddenly, the industry perception on Sanders completely flipped, with his potential disappearing in thin air. He basically disappeared from the industry less than 2 years later. Number 2. Daniel Pewter dissed Kurt Angle. In 2004, Daniel Pewter competed in the WWE's Tough Enough competition on SmackDown. During one challenge, he was put into a shoot with Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Angle appeared to underestimate Pewter, who had a training in mixed martial arts, and soon found himself trapped in a Kimura lock. By most accounts, Pewter could have broken Angle's arm, but a quick-witted referee made a fast and obviously phony 3-count on Pewter, despite Pewter's shoulders not being down. The WWE was furious with Pewter and put him in the 2005 Royal Rumble match where Chris Benoit, Hardcore Holly, and Eddie Guerrero roughed him up for real. Number 1. Buff Bagwell dissed Pat Patterson. It isn't fair to blame the flaws of the WCW-WWE Invasion storyline entirely on one performer, let alone one match, but it's almost tempting to do so once you hear the full story on how Buff Bagwell acted shortly before his WWE debut. The idea of Bagwell wrestling Booker T on Raw for the WCW Championship was controversial from the start, and longtime WWE exec Pat Patterson wanted to warn the competitors the crowd probably wasn't going to react to the match the way Bagwell or Booker were used to. Rather than heed this warning, Bagwell blew Patterson off and did whatever he wanted anyway, later trying to spin the incident into Patterson telling him not to wear his trademark hat. Lo and behold, Pat was correct and the crowd hated the match so severely that the invasion was almost scrapped from the start. One thing that did get scrapped was Bagwell's career, gone from WWE by the end of the week without any likelihood of ever returning. Well guys, that's our list. Can you think of any other wrestlers who have faced consequences for disrespecting their seniors? If so, let us know in the comments section below. Also check out our other high-rated videos by clicking at the upper right-hand corner or down in the description field. If you indeed like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss a single new video. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching.